Time now for French Connections, our weekly look at the certain je ne sais quoi of French culture with Florence Villamino.
Hi,
welcome to the Set Flow. This week we're going to focus on something that's quintessentially French, bread. Just like wine and cheese, the baguette is an unofficial symbol of France.
That's right. When you think about the stereotypical French person, you picture them with a stripy top and a baguette under their arm here. Now, bread is an integral part of the French diet, and French people take their bread very seriously. In fact, they're ready to go out of their way for a good baguette. Let's take a listen.
I make a special detour.
The bread here is the best in the neighborhood.
My husband and son only eat this bread. They go on a bread strike when the shop is closed.
I actually do exactly that. So the baguette is really the superstar of French bread, and many of our viewers had questions for you.
That's right. I got a tweet from Boyd McKay that wanted to know a little bit more about the origin of the baguette. Well, surprising as it may be, the exact origin of the baguette is unknown. In fact, there are competing theories, and the most popular story is that the baguette was born during the Napoleonic Wars, because at the time, soldiers carried around round bread, which was easier to keep. Well, it kept better, it didn't go rotten, but it wasn't very practical to carry around, and so they invented the longer baguette, because you could just stuff it in your bag. Now, what's interesting about baguettes is, like all national treasures, they're protected by law. In 1993, the government passed something called the Décret Pain, which set some ground rules. For instance, traditional baguettes, this is a baguette tradition versus the more original baguette. These tend to be a little bit more expensive because they take a little bit more work to make. And there are rules regarding what actually counts as a traditional baguette. For instance, they have to be made on the premise where they're sold, and they can only be made with 4 ingredients. So wheat flour, water, salt, and yeast, and they can't be frozen, and they can't at any stage contain additives or preservatives.
Well, you say there's a law, but I can tell you that the quality of baguettes can vary quite significantly. One thing many of our viewers want to know is, how do you choose that perfect baguette?
That's right. Well, French people will tell you that a good baguette needs to be crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside, but it's a lot more than just how it feels and how it tastes. It actually also depends on how it sounds. And let's listen to some bakers tell us just about that.
Listen, this is some good bread.
You can hear, there's life inside. It's singing.
It's telling a story.
You're proud of your baguette, aren't you?
Yes, I'm proud.
I just love the passion that those bakers have in their voice. And check it out. This is a baguette that is singing.
Now, you can, of course, buy bread in the supermarket, although a lot of French people would rather pay a little bit more and get that crunchy, nice-sounding baguette.
That's right. In fact, one of our viewers had just that question. This is Arif Rahman. Is the notion that artisan bread is tastier than supermarket bread true? Well, the answer is hands down yes, indeed. Go to a bakery. As you heard, bakers make their bread with love, and that love goes both ways. Let's take a listen.
It's the flavor, the way it looks. It's not at all the same thing as supermarket bread.
I prefer to pay a little bit more and give work to an artisan baker.
Now, that word you just heard, artisan, artisan, is very important. In fact, it's our word du jour. Now, it's usually translated as craftsperson or tradesman. It's essentially someone that puts their art at the service of others. And what's interesting is, here in France, a lot of people consider bakers to be artists, and they have quite a lot of respect for their work. In fact, one of our viewers, Chris Wood, tweeted me a very evocative advertisement for bakers. Check it out. You can see he's saying that only France could conceive such a romantic image of a heroic boulanger, that's a baker, working hard through the night. It's so evocative.
Now, French bread is not just about baguettes. There are a whole variety of breads in the country.
That's right. Now, once again, we had another viewer wanting to know more about this. This is Isaac Arman. He wants to know more about the kind of breads other than baguettes, like farmer bread, etc. Now, if you just step into any bakery, you'll be hit by the wide variety of selections. And I brought in just a couple to show you. Of course, you have the tradition, the regular baguette, but you also have a pain de campagne, which is made with a whole wheat flour, for instance. You have some that come in these kind of cool little boxes as well. It's quite a wide selection. There's really something for everyone.
Now, there's a reason that there's such a wide variety, and it's to fit different habits and different tastes. French people do tend to eat less bread, though, than before.
That's right. Eating habits are really changing. At the beginning of the last century, French people ate 1 kilo of bread per person per day. Now, these days, people tend to eat more closer to 120 grams per person per day. Now, why is bread losing its popularity? Well, there's a wide range of reasons. Let's take a listen.
I eat bread with moderation because it makes you fat.
We eat less bread than before. I think it's because our rhythms have changed. We go to the bakery on the weekend, but not during the week.
Now, another reason why people are eating less bread is because the cost of bread has gone up. In fact, it's increased by 24% in the last 10 years. Why is that? Well, the price of wheat has gone up. Now, French people still eat a lot of bread. It must be said, though, about 30 million baguettes a day. That's 300 baguettes a second. And there are all sorts of rules around eating baguettes. I guess you could call it a baguetiquette, if you will. For instance, French people rarely use a knife to cut bread. They rather break the bread. It's seen as being the right way of doing it. And what's interesting is French people rarely eat between meals, but they will give themselves the permission to have a little bite.
A little nibble.
And I just want to end, though, with a shout-out to a high school. This is the Casa Novia High School in New York. This is Miss Bullis's class. Her students have been tweeting me with some very nice questions.
Thank you so much. And you, too, can tweet Florence Vilmino with more questions at Flo Vilmino on Twitter. She will gladly answer them for you. And also, I can see use it as an excuse to have a little bite. Thanks so much, Flo.